In this video, we're going to talk about whether you can trigger attraction in someone that sees you as just a friend. Now, in a moment, I'm going to be talking about whether you can trigger attraction in somebody who's already calling you their best friend. But I also want to let you know that if you've got any other dating questions that you'd like to ask, to feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll go through them and pick one for a future video. Now, when it comes to being called somebody's best friend, that's either the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, because so many people say that they wish they could date their best friend. And that means if somebody considers you their best friend, then you're obviously someone that they would consider dating. Or is that completely wrong? And actually, when someone says you're their best friend, that means they could never date you. This is one of the fascinating things about relationships, is it seems like the rules don't make sense. On one hand, people say they only want to date their best friend, and on the other hand, they say, well, if you're my best friend, then I would never date you. The reality is something far more serious and really comes down to understanding human behavior and the power of words. You see, most communication, in fact 93% of communication, is non-verbal. That means only 7% of your communication is verbal, i.e. only 7% of any interaction you have with somebody is based on the actual words themselves. About 38%, give or take, is based on the tonality of what you're saying, and then the rest is body language. You see, when someone says that you're their best friend, that doesn't always mean that they're not interested in you, and it doesn't always mean that they are interested in you. It's all about understanding whether there is attraction in the first place. You see, if somebody is attracted to you already, and you can sense that attraction through some methods we're going to talk about in a moment, then when they tell you that they think of you as their best friend, then they're usually giving you a sign that they do want something to happen. They are interested in you, making a move and making something happen with them. On the other hand, if someone isn't attracted to you and they're not showing you any signs of attraction, then they could often be saying that you're their best friend as a way of letting you down nicely. They're like, oh, you're my best friend. I could never see you that way. And it often comes with that tonality. Look, I'm going to show you the difference. Imagine someone's hanging out with you and they go, you're my best friend. Like, I can't get enough of you. I love hanging out with you. That's kind of what attraction would look like. It's where they've got that, when you grab somebody's cheek, you're like, oh, you're so cute. Like when somebody's saying to you stuff like, oh, you're my best friend. I love spending every day with you. That's often a sign of attraction. On the other hand, if they're like, you know what, I really like hanging out with you, you're not my best friend. That's not a sign of attraction. And we could look at those two different tonalities and you'd hear a big difference between them. In one of them, there's like this pent up energy that almost comes across like aggression. And in the other one, it's almost like a withdrawing sound and it's a lot more relaxed and laid back. And this tonality makes a big difference. So we're going to assume that in this situation, when someone's saying you're their best friend, that actually you kind of are in that situation where they're not really attracted to you. And that attraction isn't something that they're interested in giving you. And they're using the best friend as a way of sort of like, letting you down nicely and saying, like, I really like you, but I like you as a friend. I'm not really interested in attraction. And so then the question is, can you build up attraction? And a lot of people think that you can, and they're not wrong. But the problem is, it depends how long you've been in the scenario. It's all about this. The more time you spend with somebody, the more they get an idea of who you really are. So if somebody spends every single day with you for like 10 years, they've already got an idea of the kind of person you are, and they've put you in a category, right? Like, this person's my friend. That's just all they are. And they're not viewing you as somebody that they could potentially date. And then if you have not been open with them about your intentions, if you've allowed this to just develop and now you're stuck in this sort of like what people would call the friend zone, but actually you're just a friend. But if you're in that situation and then suddenly you can't take it anymore and you explode and you're like, you know what, I really love you. I really want to date you. And you throw it at them, it kind of makes them get weirded out because they weren't expecting this, or they were expecting it and they were hoping that they'd given you enough signs not to make that move. And it can make them feel very awkward. So actually, one of the easiest ways to trigger attraction in somebody who is just viewing you as a friend is to create a lot of distance for a while. Like, I would actually recommend to people, I do this when I work with my private clients, I recommend that you take at least 3 to 6 months of distance from the person that you would like to date. Now, to be very real here, you're weighing up the end of the friendship with trying to date somebody. And I often recommend people that you don't do it. Like, it makes more sense 9 times out of 10 to just keep the friendship and like just give up on dating that person. Don't worry about it. Just have a great friend and have that friend and tell them you want to meet somebody and have them help you go and meet somebody else. And that's great because you've got this really good friend that will be there for you forever, who's an awesome friend that you don't have to date, and instead they can help you find somebody who does see you as attractive and wants to date you and wants to be with you. But if you absolutely are willing to lose the friendship, if dating this person means more to you than anything else, then the right thing to do is to get some distance and stop hanging out with them for a while. And what we want to do is kind of get them to forget about who you really are and go and find some soul searching, go and do some awesome things, like have a different life for a while. And what you can do in this is you can get that kind of transformation. And then when you come back and re-meet them, it's like you haven't seen somebody for a long time, and you'll have that warm glow of like, oh, it's you again. But you can present a slightly different version of yourself. You can be a bit wiser, or a bit more outgoing, or maybe a little bit more sensual, or there can be something different about you that when they see that, that is what you can then use to start building that attraction. And then in this re-meeting, the new meeting, you can portray the different version of you. And you can have that confidence of saying, hey, listen, you know what? I've never told you this before, but since being away, it made me realize something. Like, I like you. I really like you. And I would love to take you on a date. And I don't just mean as friends, but I mean actually, go on a date and see how it is. And I understand that maybe that's not something you're into, and I get that. And if that's the case, that's completely fine as well. But I wanted to come out here. I wanted to let you know that these feelings I have for you, they got really strong when I was away, and I wanted to take the time to let you know. So how about we go on a date just to see how it is? And you can throw something like that out there. And what's cool about this is while that will take them aback, because there's been distance for a while, it's not as weird for them. It's not as difficult for them. And then, if you can see any hesitation, if you can see if they're like, well, I'm not really sure. And you go, hey, I get that. It's just, I've got to be real with you. I realize that I do have these feelings for you. And the only way that I can be around you is if we're dating. And if not, I'm going to have to separate because I've got to let these feelings die down so I can have them for somebody else. And there's something about this I call brutal honesty. When you use this brutal honesty with somebody, it can get them to wake up, and it can get them to be like, you know what, maybe I will go on one date. Like, why not? Let's give it a go and see what happens. And I've seen multiple times that this has turned into a relationship. And actually, that distance that's created, first of all, makes it that much easier for the other person to accept. And then you've got a really good chance of this relationship actually blossoming into something real. On the other hand, there are some times when this won't work. There are some times where they're just gonna be like, no, look, I just don't see you that way. I'm dating somebody else. I'm just not interested. And actually, it's worth mentioning at this point, if they are dating somebody, don't put them in that awkward situation. Like, that's just really bad. Like, at least wait for them to be single before you say something like this or do something like this. But in those situations where, where it isn't right and it doesn't work, then that's absolutely fine, because at least now you've got your closure and you can move on and do something else. The reality, what's actually happened here is there was a point when you first met them where you really should have made your move. You should have made your intentions clear, that you were interested and attracted to that person. And if you don't make those intentions clear at the beginning, it gets very difficult to do it later on. The longer the relationship goes, the harder and harder it gets to do that, because you're essentially bait and switching them, right? You're selling yourself as one person and then you're trying to do something else. And so it actually makes a lot more sense to adopt this brutal honesty much earlier on and use it right at the beginning of the relationship. Now, the truth is you can completely avoid getting stuck in this kind of like awkward friend zone situation that people call it, simply by focusing on ensuring that there's 3 key elements that you present yourself with. And I teach this all the time. We call it the ACE formula, and it's abundance, confidence, and the ability to escalate. And in this situation, what's going on is you're just not being confident enough. And because you're not being confident enough, you're not making it clear about your actual intentions. And people don't realize this, but when you hide your intentions from somebody, if you're like trying to be friends with them and you don't want to let them know that you're attracted, hoping it will just happen naturally, first of all, that only happens in movies. In the real world, it doesn't happen. You kind of really need to be confident enough to put your intentions out there, because you've heard that confidence is attractive, right? What is confidence? Confidence is having that brutal honesty and the comfort to tell somebody, hey, I like you. Like, I like you in this way. I find you attractive. I'd like to go on a date with you. There's something really powerful and attractive about that. And if you can't do that, then you're actually kind of being a little bit manipulative, right? You're like pretending that you want to be their friend, hoping that this turns into a relationship. And it's not their fault if they can't notice that. If they can't see that you're interested in them, that's not on them. That's on you, because you never said it. You didn't have the confidence to say it. And that's why it makes so much more sense that if you are in that situation, just enjoy that friendship. You've built that friendship as a friendship. And to be in somebody who has integrity, you would stick with that friendship and do what you said you were going to do, which is be a good friend, and instead focus on developing a relationship with somebody else. And the last word that I want to say on this that I think is really important is there is an exception, which is if somebody's abusing your friendship. If you are friends with somebody, but they're just using you as a free ride or a free meal, or they're getting you to buy stuff for them, that's not a real friend. I look at it like this. I have a number of friends, and I treat all my friends exactly the same way, and I like them all to treat me the same way. And if I've got one friend Doesn't matter who they are. If they're trying to get things out of me that the others aren't trying to get out of me, if they're trying to, pretend to be really affectionate with me and then they're awkward with me afterwards, I know that's not a real friend. I know that in that situation, there's somebody who's trying to manipulate me. I don't care what they look like. I don't care how fun they are. I don't care any of these things. I can tell clearly that that's somebody, one of these things is not like the others. That one friend is trying to abuse the friendship, and I'm just going to distance myself and have nothing to do with them because I have self-respect. I don't want to hang out with somebody that's trying to abuse a relationship with me, whether it's a friendship or whether I'm dating. And so this is really what it's about. You're going to make sure that, one, you're not creating false relationships by pretending to be somebody's friend hoping something happens. Two, make sure you're not getting abused, that somebody isn't trying to get you to be a sucker and buy them things and pretend that they like you, but then it never turns into a date. And three, ultimately just make sure that you're confident enough to be brutally honest about exactly what you want and where to go. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the ACE formula and the method that I teach, there's a number of different ways to do it. One of the easiest ways is to find us on Facebook. You can find a link in the description of this video called Confidential Dating Advice for Professionals. That's our Facebook group where we help professional people that have already got their life in order and they're looking to make their dating life better. You can join that group, and inside that group, there's some simple questions you have to ask to get in, but it's free to get in. And then you'll see access to a whole bunch of videos that teach you all about the ACE formula, and they take you through what abundance is, confidence is, escalation is, and how to get them all. So look for the link in the description and click through and join the group. I want to thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget, if you've got a dating question, you can leave it in a comment down below and I will go through and pick one for a future video. And of course, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of the other videos. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.